Have you ever witnessed a moment where the underdog turns the tables? The CEO told a black farmer's son to try to fix the machine. He had no idea who the boy's father was. "Hey, farm boy, how about you try fixing our $15 million machine? Maybe beginner's luck will work." CEO Richard Morrison's voice echoed through the TechFlow Industries warehouse like a whip, drawing malicious laughter from the 50 employees gathered around the stalled production line. What if this young man held a secret that could change everything? Marcus Thompson, just 19 years old, calmly looked up from his cell phone where he was typing a message to his priest. His hands, calloused from years of working on his family's farm, remained steady as he sent the text, "Dad, it's time. You can start." For 3 consecutive weeks, the company's most modern machine had been broken, costing exactly $540,000 per day in losses. 7 engineers with PhDs from elite universities, 2 specialists imported from Germany, and even a NASA consultant had bowed in defeat before the silent equipment. Marcus was there just to pick up some documents that his mother, Helena Thompson, secretary of the legal department for 15 years, had forgotten in her rush. It was her last day of work before starting engineering studies at Stanford, an achievement she had kept secret for reasons known only to her family. "Come on, folks. Make way for our rural equipment expert," Morrison continued, gesturing theatrically as dozens of cell phones rose to record the moment. His blue eyes gleamed with the calculated cruelty of someone who had built an empire by trampling on people like Marcus. Maybe he'll apply some cattle herding technique that our Harvard PhDs don't know about. The laughter intensified, echoing through the warehouse like hyenas surrounding wounded prey. "Are you ready for the twist that will leave you speechless?" Marcus looked at each face around him, some laughing with genuine cruelty, others uncomfortable, but cowardly silent. He mentally recorded each one. Dr. Sarah Chun, chief engineer and one of the few decent people in the company, whispered to her colleague, "This is blatant racial humiliation. Someone should stop this." But her voice was lost in the chorus of laughter that Morrison had orchestrated with a mastery of a seasoned sociopath. "Just look at him, everyone." Morrison approached Marcus like a predator, his breath reeking of $3,000 Irish whiskey as he invaded the young man's personal space. "I bet you've never seen a machine that wasn't powered by horses, have you, little farmer boy?" Marcus stood still, but anyone paying attention would have noticed something disturbing in his eyes. There was no shame, fear, or anger. Just an almost dangerous serenity, like the calm before a devastating hurricane. He had witnessed the same arrogance years earlier when his father had been publicly humiliated by Morrison himself during a town hall meeting. That day, Marcus swore that one day the Thompson family would have her revenge. And unlike most people, the Thompsons had the resources to turn oaths into reality. "Well, little farmer." Morrison knocked on the side of the machine with the same carelessness with which one knocks on an old door. "Will you accept our scientific challenge, or would you rather go back to planting your sweet potatoes?" The silence that followed was thick as fog. Even the nervous laughter ceased. Everyone waited for the final humiliation, the moment when the young black man would bow his head and run away, confirming all the prejudices Morrison loved to feed. Marcus slowly put away his cell phone, his fingers sliding across the screen in a final movement that could have been nervousness, but was actually sending GPS coordinates and a code that only 3 people in the world knew. Then, for the first time since he had entered the warehouse, he smiled. It was not the nervous smile of someone who feels intimidated, nor the forced smile of someone trying to hide humiliation. It was the cold smile of someone who was about to rewrite the fate of everyone present. "Of course, Mr. Morrison. It would be an honor to try to help." Those 8 words, spoken with the impeccable politeness his mother had taught him, sounded like a death knell to anyone who knew how to listen. Morrison, drunk on his own arrogance, interpreted the kindness as submission. What none of those 50 people could have imagined was that Marcus Thompson wasn't just a farmer's son. He was the son of the man who had designed that very machine 3 years earlier in absolute secrecy under a confidentiality agreement that Morrison had violated so blatantly that he had just signed his own professional death warrant. If you're curious to find out how a moment of racial humiliation turned into the biggest mistake of a billionaire CEO's life and want to know what secret a seemingly simple family had been keeping for years, don't forget to subscribe to the Black Voices channel to follow this story of justice that goes far beyond what anyone could have imagined. Marcus walked up to the machine with the same ease as someone approaching an old friend. His fingers slid across the metal surface with disturbing familiarity, completely ignoring the laughter that still echoed in the background. "Does anyone have a Phillips screwdriver and a flashlight?" he asked, his voice cutting through the noise like a sharp blade. Morrison laughed louder. "Listen to this. The little farmer wants tools. How about a hammer, too, kid? Maybe that'll work better than all our German technology." Dr. Sarah Chun, watching from the sidelines, frowned. There was something about Marcus's demeanor that completely belied the stereotype Morrison was trying to paint. She approached discreetly, handing him the requested tools. "Thank you, Doctor," Marcus whispered, his eyes meeting hers for a moment. "You designed the cooling system for this line, right? Brilliant work." Sarah froze. That specific information was not available anywhere to the public. How could a young farmer know technical details that only she and 3 other people knew? As Marcus bent down to examine the lower panel, his cell phone vibrated discreetly. A simple message appeared on the screen. "Coordinates received. Starting Phoenix Protocol. DT." Morrison, drunk on his own performance, continued his cruel show. "Look at this, everyone. Now he's going to try to fix our $15 million machine with a screwdriver. Is anyone recording this? It'll go viral on social media." The employees laughed nervously, but some were beginning to feel uncomfortable with the gratuitous cruelty. Marcus, however, worked with surgical precision, removing specific panels as if he had a mental map of the internal structure. "Interesting," he muttered to himself, but loud enough for Sarah to hear. "The pressure sensor is set to European parameters, but the American voltage is causing interference in the primary circuit. Classic conversion error." Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. Marcus had just identified the exact same problem that her team had spent 3 weeks suspecting, but had not yet been able to confirm. Morrison, noticing that some people had stopped laughing to pay attention to Marcus' work, raised his voice even more. "You know what, little farmer boy? When you fail miserably here in front of everyone, I'll make sure your mommy loses her job, too. A family of incompetents doesn't deserve to work for a serious company." The threat against Helena made Marcus pause for a second. His hands clenched imperceptibly, but when he raised his face, his smile remained intact, now with a hint of something that made Morrison involuntarily retreat. "Mr. Morrison," Marcus said, his voice remaining impeccably polite. "Are you sure you want to bet the company's reputation at this point?" "Bet." Morrison laughed, but there was a forced note in his voice. "Kid, you're literally nobody. You have nothing to threaten me with." At that moment, Marcus' cell phone vibrated again. This time, the message contained only GPS coordinates and a time. "Arriving in 20 minutes. Prepare the ground. DT." Marcus adjusted 2 internal cables with precise movements, then connected a small device he took from his pocket, something that looked like a common adapter, but which Sarah immediately recognized as a custom voltage regulator. "Where did you get that?" she whispered incredulously. "My father always taught me to be prepared," Marcus replied simply. The machine emitted a soft hum, then a metallic click. Status lights began flashing in sequence, something that hadn't happened in 3 weeks. A murmur of surprise rippled through the group. Morrison pushed people aside to get closer. "This is impossible. You cheated." "Cheating?" Marcus stood up, wiping his hands calmly. "Mr. Morrison, the problem was simply a voltage incompatibility between European and American components. Anyone with basic knowledge of industrial electronics would know that." The silence that followed was deafening. The machine wasn't just working. It was operating at a level of efficiency that exceeded all of the original specifications. Sarah looked at Marcus with new eyes, finally realizing what she should have noticed from the beginning. The confidence, the technical knowledge, the familiarity with equipment that only senior engineers should know. "Who are you really?" she whispered. Marcus checked the time on his cell phone. 15 minutes. Enough time for the second part of the plan. "Dr. Chun," he said, ignoring her question. Do you believe that people deserve to be judged by their character and competence, not by their appearance or background? Sarah nodded instinctively. Then get ready. In a few minutes, Mr. Morrison is going to discover that underestimating people can be the most expensive mistake of your life. As the machine ran smoothly and Morrison struggled to find an explanation that would save his wounded dignity, no one noticed the black car that had just pulled up at the company gate, nor the elegant man walking purposefully toward the warehouse. A man whose name was about to turn this racial humiliation into a nightmare Morrison would never forget. The sound of firm footsteps on the concrete caused a few heads to turn toward the warehouse entrance. An elegant man in his 50s walked with natural authority, his suit understated but impeccable, carrying a leather briefcase that looked like it contained important documents. "Excuse the interruption," he said, his voice cutting through the chatter. "I'm Daniel Thompson, and I believe you've been testing my son." The silence was instant and absolute. Morrison frowned, clearly confused, while Marcus rose slowly with a smile that finally revealed his true intentions. "Dad," Marcus said simply. "Mr. Morrison was challenging me to fix the machine you designed." Daniel Thompson, the name ricocheted through Sarah Chen's mind like a shot. She knew that name from the most exclusive circles of industrial engineering, the reclusive genius who had revolutionized factory automation before mysteriously disappearing from the corporate world 3 years earlier. Morrison, still trying to process the information, stammered. I don't understand. You said you were a farmer." "I am a farmer," Daniel replied, opening the briefcase and removing a set of documents. "But I am also the engineer who designed this particular machine for TechFlow Industries under an exclusive confidentiality agreement. An agreement that, according to my records, has been systematically violated." Dr. Sarah Chen approached, her eyes wide as she recognized the signatures on the documents. "My God, you're the DT from the technical specifications. I always wondered who the genius behind this design was." Daniel smiled at her with genuine warmth. "Dr. Chen, I've read your articles on energy efficiency. Exceptional work. It's a shame that my designs have been credited to others." Morrison felt the floor crumbling beneath his feet. "Wait, that's impossible. Our engineers designed this machine in-house. We have complete documentation." "Are you sure?" Daniel pulled a tablet from his briefcase showing a dated video recording. "This is the meeting on March 14, 2021 where you secretly hired me to develop this project, ensuring that my name would never appear publicly. Here you are signing the confidentiality agreement and committing to pay $800,000 for the exclusive rights." The recording showed Morrison, clearly recognizable, shaking Daniel's hand in his luxurious office, discussing technical specifications that only the true creator could know. That was 3 years ago," Morrison stammered, his face turning red. "No one needs to know those details." Marcus stepped forward, pulling out his own cell phone. "Actually, Mr. Morrison, 50 people just witnessed you racially humiliating me and threatening to fire my mother. All recorded and posted live on the company's social media." The color drained from Morrison's face. "You couldn't have done that." "Oh, but I did." Marcus showed him the screen of his phone where thousands of views had already accumulated on the live video. The comments were devastating. "Racist CEO humiliates young black man. This man is disgusting. Boycott TechFlow. This is unacceptable in 2024. Daniel continued relentless. "But the best part, Mr. Morrison, is that you just committed breach of contract by publicly exposing my work. We recorded everything. You falsely crediting your engineers for my design, violating the confidentiality agreement that required me to remain anonymous." Sarah Chen, finally grasping the magnitude of the situation, shook her head in disbelief. "Richard, you lied to all of us. We took credit for work we didn't do." Furthermore, Marcus added with lethal calm, "You violated federal civil rights laws by publicly discriminating against me on the basis of my race. We have 50 witnesses and high-definition video evidence." Morrison looked around desperately for support, but found only shocked and disappointed faces. Some employees were already whispering among themselves. Others were typing furiously on their phones. "You don't understand," Morrison tried to explain. It was a joke, a personality test. A joke? Daniel's voice turned icy, calling my son a little farmer, suggesting he uses corral techniques, threatening his mother's job. Is that a joke to you? Morrison's cell phone began to ring incessantly. The board of directors had probably already seen the viral video. He answered with trembling hands. Hello? Yes, I can explain. No, it wasn't like that. While Morrison tried to control the damage on the phone, Daniel turned to the stunned audience. My son fixed this machine in 15 minutes because I taught him every circuit, every component. He knows my work better than anyone here, including the man who stole my credit. Marcus watched Morrison hang up the phone, his face pale as a sheet. Let me guess, Marcus said with subtle sarcasm. The board wants an explanation for the hashtags #racist and #techfloricism that are already going viral. Morrison tried one last desperate gambit. Look, we can work this out civilly. How about a promotion for your mother? A raise. Daniel Thompson smiled, but there was no warmth in that smile. Mr. Morrison, the only thing we want right now is justice. And from what I see in the comments on social media, 50,000 people agree with us. As Morrison watched his career and reputation crumble in real time, one question remained. Was it possible that his arrogance and racism had not only destroyed his own life, but revealed a truth about the company that would forever change the way the world viewed TechFlow Industries? 48 hours after the video went viral, Richard Morrison was cleaning out his executive desk for the last time. The board had voted unanimously for his immediate dismissal, and the hashtags #racist and #techflowboycott remained among the most talked about topics on social media, accumulating over 20 million views. Your personal belongings will be mailed to you, said the legal assistant, avoiding eye contact. Your company car has been picked up. Your access to the systems has been revoked, and the legal department has requested that you not make any public statements about the incident. Morrison tried to maintain his dignity, but his hands trembled as he placed the family photo in a cheap cardboard box. In less than 2 days, he had lost not only his job of 15 years, but also dozens of corporate contracts that depended solely on his personal reputation. His company shares, once valued at $8 million, were now worth less than toilet paper. Across town, Marcus received a call that would change his life forever. Mr. Thompson, this is Linda Roberts, the new interim CEO of TechFlow. We would like to offer you a position as senior engineer with a starting salary of $120,000 per year, plus a full scholarship to complete your studies at Stanford. Daniel, sitting next to his son in the simple kitchen of the farm they no longer needed to sell, smiled with paternal pride. What about the breach of contract and moral damages? He asked on the phone, his voice carrying the serenity of someone who finally saw justice being done. We are preparing compensation of $2.5 million for the stolen credits plus retroactive royalties on all derivative products, Linda replied. We would also like to establish a corporate diversity program in the name of the Thompson family with an annual budget of $500,000. Dr. Sarah Chun, promoted to Director of Engineering after Morrison's downfall, visited the farm in person at the end of the week, carrying a proposal that represented much more than a simple job offer. Marcus, I wanted to apologize personally for not defending you at the time, but I also wanted to offer you something revolutionary. She held out a folder containing official documents printed on company letterhead. TechFlow wants to create the Daniel Thompson Institute for Innovation, offering full scholarships, mentoring programs, and internship opportunities to talented young people from rural and underserved communities. We need ambassadors who understand both technical excellence and the importance of social justice. Helena Thompson, Marcus' mother, could finally walk through the company hallways with her head held high, telling her colleagues about her son's Stanford achievement and the true genius of her family. Information she had kept secret for years to protect them from harmful expectations and systematic prejudice. Meanwhile, Morrison was discovering firsthand how the corporate world treats those who fall from public grace. His former executive friends not only avoided returning his calls, but actively spread the word that his consulting firm was radioactive to any brand that valued diversity and inclusion. 6 months later, Marcus walked across the Stanford campus as a full scholarship student, while his father simultaneously consulted for 3 of the country's largest technology companies, each contract worth more than Morrison had earned in his entire career. The documentary Racial Humiliation, The Price of Corporate Arrogance had generated 15 million views and inspired dozens of young Black and Latino people to pursue careers in engineering and technology. The transformation at TechFlow was even more dramatic. The diversity program created by the Thompsons not only hired 50 new engineers from diverse backgrounds, but also developed 3 revolutionary patents that increased the company's value by 40%. Wall Street officially recognized that the Thompson era had made TechFlow more innovative and profitable than it had ever been under its previous discriminatory management. Morrison, meanwhile, had moved to a small town in the country after his professional reputation was completely destroyed. No significant company would hire him, and even basic consulting jobs were denied him when employers discovered his identity through a simple Google search. The arrogance that once seemed his greatest asset had literally become his professional death sentence. During an interview for the podcast Social Justice in Action, Marcus reflected on the whole experience with the maturity of someone far beyond his 20s. True revenge is not destroying those who hurt you. It's building something so meaningful and transformative that it renders their limited opinion of you completely irrelevant. Daniel added, his words carrying the weight of decades of experience. I have taught my son that genuine talent has no color, social class, or geographic origin. But I have also learned that sometimes the world needs to see that truth in a very clear, public, and impossible to ignore way. The Thompson family story proved definitively that underestimating people based on superficial appearances or archaic prejudices can be the most costly and permanent mistake anyone makes in life. Marcus didn't just fix a broken machine. He fixed an entire system of prejudice and limitations that wasted extraordinary potential on a daily basis. The best revenge has never been the petty destruction of one's enemy, but the flawless construction of a legacy that he could never have imagined or achieved. Marcus turned a brutal moment of racial humiliation into the catalyst for a silent revolution that opened golden doors for thousands of young people who, like him, had hidden talents just waiting for the right opportunity to shine and transform the world. What about you? Have you ever been underestimated because of your appearance, background, or social status? How did you react when someone tried to diminish your potential? Leave your story of overcoming adversity in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the Black Voices channel for more stories that prove that true excellence always finds its way, regardless of the cruel obstacles imposed by prejudice and human ignorance.